What we know from the election outcomes is that voters were concerned primarily with the economy and the party in power. And so they cast their votes against the Democrats primarily because of their concerns with unemployment and the jobs crisis. The number one issue voters said mattered to them was the economy. About 62% of voters said the economy was their number one concern, and they voted in a majority for Republican candidates. It's worth saying, though, that voters did not vote necessarily for the Republican candidates. This was a vote against the party in power. And we've seen this historically over time. In every single midterm election over the last 75 years, but for two, voters have rejected the party in power. Democrats performed very poorly in Rust Belt states. And the main reason why that occurred is because those states have taken the worst brunt in terms of job loss in this Great Recession. And so voters are very angry at the state of the economy in those states, more so than, say, states on either coast. And they punish the party in power. They punish the Democrats for that reason. What's significant about the Rust Belt states, but also major Republican gains in gubernatorial elections and in state legislatures, is that we're about to come upon a wave of redistricting. The census results will be released very soon, and state governments are charged with redrawing the congressional districts. This is related to the old adage that politicians choose their voters and not the other way around. So we're going to see a range of redistricting efforts, and the party that controls the state house has an advantage on how districts get drawn. John Boehner from Ohio will become the next Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he will have a harder time than what we might imagine right now governing his new majority caucus. The primary reason he's going to have a hard time is because the Tea Party's best successes came in House races. We might think of the Tea Party as a mixed bag in this election cycle. They did extraordinarily well in House races, but failed miserably when it came to Senate races. Think Christine O'Donnell in Delaware, Sharon Engle in Nevada. So John Boehner as a speaker will have to balance the Tea Party concerns about limited government, balancing the budget, reducing spending, with his history of wanting to cut deals and being a compromiser, and with the Republican establishment who will have to work with the president on some key issues. The most important issue coming up soon is raising the debt ceiling so the government can function. President Obama is not alone in suffering significant midterm losses. There have been previous presidents, Eisenhower, Truman, Clinton, who have all suffered midterm losses and have come back to win re-election. And for President Obama to learn the lesson of this midterm election, to try to be the next Clinton, Eisenhower, Truman, to win a second term, he has to take the lessons of voter anger around the economy, number one, to heart. He and his party have to reposition themselves with a laser-like focus on the economy, and they have to convey that they're focused on the economy to the voters by 2012. There are two key issues that the president and the Democratic Congress can take up in the lame duck session, both of which are very controversial. The first is the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and the second is a component of immigration reform. And the president and the Democratic leadership will have to make a very tough set of decisions about what they do with these two controversial issues. On the one hand, their base is asking them, pleading with them to take up both of these issues. The gay and lesbian community, as well as the immigrant rights community, have been pushing the administration from the start around immigration reform and Don't Ask, Don't Tell. If the president does not take these issues up and push the Democratic Congress to deal with these issues in the lame duck, he will further demobilize and demotivate his base. Now, under conditions of shared governance, where the Republicans do control one branch of government, they control the House, they now run the risk that this wave of Republican discontent, from which they rather Democratic discontent from which they benefited, will affect them in 2 years. So we could see independents in 2 years who swung back to the Republican column from the previous Democratic waves, swing back to the Democrats in House elections in 2012, precisely because they're discontent with the party in power, the Republicans,